What is the first really philosophically interesting thing that Moore says about the seven propositions that he asserted at the beginning of his lecture? The first, I would say, really interesting thing that he says about them is that although each one of them is true, they might have been false. That is, the content of those propositions, under different circumstances, had they been uttered in different circumstances, or had the world turned out differently than it did, those things would have been false. Right now, if I say about myself that I am sitting down right now, I am expressing a truth. But it's something that might have been false, the proposition. That is, the world could have turned out in such a way that I was standing up when I said it, and in that case it would be false. It happens to be true, but it could have been false. Now, if we draw that out a little bit, what does that mean about these sort of propositions, the kind of assertions that Moore makes in the beginning of this lecture? What he wants to say about them is that although each one of them is true, the contrary or denial of them is not self-contradictory. That is, if I say that I am sitting down right now, I almost got it wrong. If I say that I am sitting down right now, the contrary of that, I am not sitting down right now, it happens to be false, but it's not self-contradictory. It doesn't contradict itself. You can't tell from just looking at the assertion itself that it's false. You have to know how it relates to the world to know whether it's true or false. There are other propositions that I could make where we could tell right away that the thing was false. For instance, if I say some bachelors are married, then I know that that's false. That is because it contradicts itself, because the very definition of a bachelor is a married man. So if I say that some bachelors are married, that I know right away that that's false. I don't have to check in the world and check all the bachelors in the world to see if they're married. I know from definition that if something is a bachelor, it is unmarried. So some propositions, the kind of empirical, contingent, accidental truths are sometimes called, the kind of things that Moore begins with, they're true, but their contraries are not self-contradictory. Some truths, yes, the contraries are self-contradictory. To say, for instance, that all bachelors are married men, or that every bachelor is, all bachelors are unmarried men, or to say that every bachelor is unmarried, is a truth the contrary of which is self-contradictory. That is, it's true and it has to be true, given the meanings of the words. A contingent proposition is true, but it didn't have to be true. It just happens to be true. Now, why is Moore pointing this out? What is he actually doing in this section? Well, his real target here is those philosophers who believe that the only things that we can really know for sure are propositions, the contraries of which are self-contradictory, because those things have to be true, and only the things that have to be true are things that we can know for sure. The kind of contingent propositions that Moore starts with, they would say, are the kind of things that might be true. We can have an opinion about their truth, but we can never say that we know them for certain. What Moore wants to say is that does not follow at all. That is, just because an assertion that I make is contingent, it does not follow that it might be false. It might have been false. It didn't have to turn out to be true, but it is true. It also doesn't follow, according to Moore, that it is possible for it to be false, or that the contrary is possibly true. That is, if I say I know something, haven't I implied that it's not possible for the contrary of what I say to be true? If I say, well, I think that I'm sitting down right now, but it's possible I'm not, that's one thing. If I say I know that I'm sitting down right now, what I basically implied, according to Moore, despite the contingency of the truth that I've expressed, is that it's not possible for the contrary of my proposition to be false.